have a flyer of, okay. So, so I would love to just have you speak about your program, your books, just your background, and I think they have questions for you as well. There's about, oh gosh, what? Oh, I need to turn, oh, hello.
Hi.
So there's about, I don't know, maybe 10 people here.
Okay.
And so they're sitting on a couch and chairs, and
Nice.
there's quite a few women here that are survivors. So we have a group of survivors, and I gave them your book, and they're very excited to have that. So
Oh, wonderful.
go ahead.
Okay. And then maybe when we do question and answer, you can turn me around so I can see everyone when we're talking. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I think what I'd like to focus on today is talking to you about kind of my journey into cancer care and my focus, which has been about locating the toxins that are potential triggers for cancer and nourishing the cells to help support the body and healing in very specific ways, and then how those come together in epigenetics to actually reverse breast cancer genetically. This is where I've kind of come after this long 30-year journey of my work, and why I feel that it's so effective. So I want to tell you a little bit about kind of how I got here, because each of my books is kind of a result of the work that I was doing in various eras of my career. But really, my career has just followed this really interesting time with a lot of new sciences. So when I first got into nutrition and healthcare, it was back in the early 80s, and kind of mid 80s, the Bastyr University opened up in Seattle. And before that, I had been at the University of Washington. And as soon as I read about it, I switched programs. I moved right over to Bastyr because it was the very first fully accredited natural health sciences college in the country, which was really exciting to me because what this means is there's a science-based program about natural sciences, and the school actually has many really fantastic programs: Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, naturopathic medicine. Now they have, it's still in Seattle, Juanita area, and they have now added programs for mental health and other areas of medicine and natural treatments and natural care. But when I first started, it was so new that there was only 4 of us in the nutrition program. And so we were thrown in with the naturopathic students. So I did all my medical training in with them, which is one of the reasons that I operate so differently from other nutritionists. I'm much more like a naturopath. I've been running lab tests since the very early days, which isn't true of most nutritionists, I would say. And then while I was at Bastyr, in these early days, it was a really interesting time because so many of the health books out on bookstore shelves had a lot of misinformation back then. I remember reading about how we carry around 5 pounds of undigested material in our digestive systems. And I saw this in many, many published books, and it just wasn't true. And so I learned to investigate everything and to only base my my information, any of my advice, on really sound research. So in those early days, I spent a lot of time over at the University of Washington Library looking up these studies. And in those days, we didn't have these really easy systems online for us to just pop open our own home computers. I had to go over to the library and hand them my credit card, and they charged $60 an hour. And I would sit there and go through each study as fast as I could, printing quickly, and just so that I could get all the information that I needed. And I had to really look at everything. I just couldn't take anything for face value because I would run into so much misinformation. So with something like this rumor about the undigested material in the digestive tract, I would go and actually talk to physicians, talk to GI doctors and say, do we really see this, And then they would explain, well, no, when we do a colonoscopy, you do a magnesium cleanse and we just see nice pink, perfect tissue in there. There's nothing in there. So that was exciting to me too, to learn that I could find the answers. I just had to be curious enough and ask the right people. So I learned early on that it takes a lot of work to get the right information, but it's really worth it. And I started writing articles right away because I felt like there's so many old wives' tales that are just repeated all the time. And I thought, we need to get to the bottom of these things. People need to know. So I started writing articles, and gosh, how many years ago was this? This is a while ago. So this is the late 80s and 90s. And so I started to get my name out with the articles, and then publishers were contacting me and asking me to write health books on some of these topics that we really only had kind of RDs writing about. And RDs often, in those days anyway, were trained to recommend a lot of meat and dairy and things like that. They weren't whole foods nutritionists. Let's see. So then after publishers started contacting me, I reached out to one of my professors at Bastyr because I was still in the bachelor's program, and asked her to write with me. And this was Maureen Keene. And she and I wrote, maybe 10 books together. And the first 6 we did were a series for McGraw-Hill. And they were called What to Eat If You Have Cancer, What to Eat If You Have Heart Disease, and What to Eat If You Have Diabetes. And in those days, we didn't know about epigenetics yet. We had a lot of initial information about food nutrients, and we were learning about antioxidants. So now I look back at that and I feel like, well, that was very rudimentary information, and yet it was helpful. In fact, those books were printed in 8 languages, and the What to Eat If You Have Cancer was an international bestseller. And I realized that there is a real need for information out there. And I was seeing kind of the urgency about getting information to people and kind of translating research into practical guidance, because I learned that when new research comes out, it takes about 15 years before that research becomes protocol in clinics. 15 years. So I'm seeing this just really critical, important, wonderful information that patients need. And so I felt very driven to write and get information out in any way I could. I was doing a radio show, writing articles, writing books. I wrote 2 books a year for a long time, just trying to repackage the information in different ways to make it easy for people. And Maureen and I, we wrote a book called Smoothies for Life. In fact, in that era, I wrote one of the first gluten-free baking books and an ancient grain book all about teff and quinoa and amaranth and kind of the value of those unhybridized grains. And we wrote a book called Smoothies for Life, which sold 300,000 copies right out of the gate. And so it was really exciting to me because it meant that this is something that people really resonate with. And what we loved as nutritionists is that almost everyone has a blender in their home. So it's easy, something accessible. And even if you don't have a lot of time to cook, you can always add some fruit, some protein to a smoothie and get kind of a bulk of the nutrients you need for the day early on. And what we did with Smoothies for Life was create recipes based on research to help people with specific health conditions. So it was for insomnia and weight gain or weight loss. And I think acne was one of the topics. And so the lesson I was learning at this point was how to take the research, look at dose dependency. Like when you see a study that shows you can reverse acne with 15 milligrams of zinc daily, how do we translate that into a recipe? So I'd look at foods, find out how much zinc they had, how many tablespoons would have to go into a smoothie to get that same dose. And so this was really fun, developing medicinal smoothies. And and people really found that easy, like something they could really do. And that was a relief to me because working with clients, I often felt like I was kind of stressing my clients to give them a diet. I'd tell them, oh no, you need to go find organic food. And oh no, you have to give up the meat and incorporate some tofu and some, beans, that even if you're not used to eating them. And sometimes it just felt like a lot for folks. So I loved that the smoothies were just a quick, easy way. I didn't need to have people change their lives too much to get a lot of the nutrients they were needing right away. So over the years, I've written quite a few smoothie books for different issues because I just still feel like they're the way to go. In fact, I have a purple tongue right now because I just drank a blueberry smoothie. I was just realizing that earlier, and blue teeth right before I got on camera. So let's see, and then the progression here. So because I'd written this cancer book early on, and there really weren't a lot of nutrition books about cancer back then, the CEO of the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, which is a big chain of cancer centers in America, Richard Stevenson, he's the CEO, he used that book to help his wife heal from cancer. And so he reached out to me and asked me to come to the Seattle clinic and help develop protocols for the patients, which was really exciting because this was bringing, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was bringing, oh, I can see you now because you're facing me. This is great.
Okay, yeah. I can, yeah, hello.
Hi. Let's see. Oh, so the CTCA, so Richard Stevenson asked me to come to Seattle and develop protocols. And this was another big aha moment for me because now I was really focusing on cancer care and developing smoothies for my clients, but also realizing that different types of cancer, like colon cancer versus breast cancer, there are different nutritional needs, different microbial needs, like probiotic needs. And then even within one type of cancer, like breast cancer, there are subtypes, and each of those subtypes have special needs. So it's, there's different recommendations for TNBC, triple negative breast cancer versus estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. So that sent me into a whole new arena of research, really learning about these specific subtypes and what is helpful for these very different types of cells and how they respond to the internal environment. So that was very exciting for me. This is where I learned about how at time of diagnosis, most women are low in vitamin D, and they still don't know if this is because the cancer itself uses up the D, or if when we're low in D, it makes us more susceptible. I read all the research about carotenoids, which is like beta carotene, these orange and red colors in our plant foods, and how at a high enough level in the bloodstream, cancer cells cannot form. And so there's, yes, so exciting. So eating a lot of plant foods really infuses our whole bloodstream with nutrients that actually change how our cells are responding. They're really exciting. Same with flavonoids. That's another whole category of nutrients that really has powerful effects on all of our cells. Let's see. And so, and at that time, that's when I started to beginnings of the research about apoptosis. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's just absolutely phenomenal. And I think the whole oncology community should certainly be aware of this, but I don't hear talked about that often. And this is about programmed cell death. So all of our cells in our bodies have a way to destroy themselves when they start to have problems, when they start to divide in funky ways, they can destroy themselves, but only if they have all the right nutrients to help them do that. These are plant nutrients like carotenoids and flavonoids and antioxidants. And what's really brilliant about this is that by eating these antioxidant rich foods that help with the apoptosis, we're not hurting any other cells in our bodies. We're supporting our bodies and our immune systems, but we're actually breaking down cancer cells and our bodies just flush them out. And this is how we all, our bodies manage the initiation of cancer, which I remember one of my epidemiology instructors explaining that there's so many new fresh cells every day in our bodies that some of them will be cancerous, but our immune systems handle those and break them down. And so we're all kind of, developing some of those cells, but our bodies clean them up in very miraculous ways. And it's just really when certain imbalances happen that the aberrant cells can start to grow quickly, and then we have cancer development. One example of this kind of quick cell turnover is in the digestive tract. So all along our like 20 feet of digestive tract, those cells are sloughing off every day, and we're forming new cells. So every 6 weeks, we have an entirely new digestive tract. So our bodies are completely turning over all the time, and we have many systems in place to help us heal. And I've become a firm believer in removing the toxins that become too much of a burden on our body, that our bodies can't work well, and really flooding our body with the nutrients that we need. So let's see, I'm trying to remember, this is a lot of years of practice I'm thinking back through here, but let's see. So I was running my practice in Sun Valley, Idaho for about 10 years, and I had a really interesting experience there because it's kind of little Hollywood. There's a lot of movie stars there. I was living in Demi Moore's house and working with her friends and helping them with their health issues. And what was really an awakening for me was that before that time, when I was working with clients, we would have to be kind of prioritize what we were doing together and what tests we were going to run, because they're expensive and we just couldn't do everything at once. But in Sun Valley, I was working with so many wealthy folks that I was able to run thousands of dollars in tests all at once. And I really started to see patterns, and I learned so much from that experience. And what I was seeing is almost always with a disease, we would see a spike in a specific toxin that was related to that disease. So I learned a tremendous amount about toxicology there and got very excited about that. And I had an experience myself with phthalates from plastics that was causing some issues. And as soon as I cut the plastic out of my life, which was basically just from drinking out of plastic water bottles each day, my issues with my uterus, my ovaries cleared up. And so I went down to Arizona and studied at the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine with Walter Krinian, who is the guru of environmental medicine. And he had done all of this research, pulling the studies together on specific health conditions. So I was able to garner a huge amount of information on specific types of cancer from my training there. And what I found was that applying the toxicology information to my client care really made a huge difference in recurrence. So many of my clients who were, I talked to them just briefly each year to see how they're doing and if they need help, and finding that once we identified cancer toxins, removed those from the home, then they were able to stay in remission. And so, none of what I say is absolutely true for every person. We're all so different, but I've really seen patterns over the years, and find that that removing toxins that we know are known carcinogens. So, there's many toxins out there, chemical and heavy metals and so on, that are known triggers for cancer, and some are specifically breast toxins. So, for example, heavy metals are endocrine disruptors. They mimic estrogen. So they can throw off the balance of estrogen in the body and stimulate estrogen receptors. And then there's some toxins like FIPS, which is something I've just learned about a few years ago. So FIPS is a heterocyclic amine, and it's in anything that's burning. So smoke from forest fire, smoke from our fireplace, smoke from cigarettes, but really high concentrations in blackened food materials, like on toast, burnt toast, and grilled food. And so FIPS are a 3-strike carcinogen. They cause initiation, the beginnings of those cancer cells. They cause the spread and the metastasis of breast cells, specifically breast cancer cells. And they stimulate estrogen receptor sites specifically. So knowing that, we can avoid that, you know. So this is what's so exciting to me when I was learning about the toxins that cause cancer. So many of them are in our homes, and and I say I'm excited about this because knowing that they're in our homes means we have control over that. You know, really before my toxicology studies, I would have said most of our exposure is from industry. You know, it's from out there. You know, things that corporations are doing, or contamination in the environment. But even the CDC now is finally putting this on their website, that our exposure inside our homes is about 5 times that of outside exposures. And these toxins are in items in our homes, like parabens in our cosmetics, and phthalates, which are in plastic. So plastic, like Tupperware containers, and heavy metals, which are in things like toys, or in dyes in our clothes. So I spent the last 3 years really focusing on this, because I felt like, okay, here's another really exciting thing. We have control over what's in our homes, and if we can just identify those, we can remove them. And so this is the basis of my book that comes out next year, Home Detox. And it's a room by room guide for identifying toxins that cause disease and how to remove them. And then the tricky bit for me was finding alternatives. So if you have to get rid of your plastic sponge, what are you going to use instead? So I tried 20 different natural sponges to find the walnut core material that works really well and is biodegradable. And so I have that information in the Home Detox book, but I also, as I was doing that research, found that a lot of that information was very specific to breast cancer. So I've been pulling it all together for a book, or I've been feeling like an online program is a better place for this information, because I can change it at any point and update it. So I know, Natalie, I'd mentioned to you this online breast cancer program I'm working on, and we hope to have it up today, but it's not quite ready. We need a few more weeks. But when I do have it up, in fact, if anyone today wants to sign up for my newsletter, you can just email me or call me, and I'll make sure to tell you in the newsletter when the program's up. And you and I had talked about doing something for the group here. And so I'm happy to give everyone a free month of the program, and so that they can try it out when it comes out. And my members can reach out to me too. So it's a way for us to communicate. They can let me know more about what they need, and I can update the program. Oh, and so one more piece I want to talk about, the book Turning Off Breast Cancer. So this one is out of print now. You can still get some copies out there, but Turning Off Breast Cancer was a book I wrote a few years ago about food nutrients and toxins. And what we've learned about toxins in the last 10 years, I would say, is that not only do they affect disease directly, but they affect our genetics. And so the reason I called that book Turning Off Breast Cancer is because we learned that certain toxins actually turn on cancer genes. So it's like genes that are dormant in our system, and these toxins turn them on. So they start replicating cancer cells, and food nutrients actually turn them off. So as I was seeing this in the research, I just started gathering that all together and trying to put it into a practical program for folks. And so that was that first round of that information in Turning Off Breast Cancer about epigenetics, which is really exciting. So I feel like what we have is we just have a tremendous amount of information now about food nutrients and the triggers for cancer that we actually have a lot of control over. And so I'm working now to just try to help people get access to all of that information in as many ways as I can. I wrote an article for Women in Cancer magazine for 5 years, and tried to get out information real time there. I had my Nutrition Matters program on NPR for the last 6 years, and that was a good way to get information out. But I'm working now to try to find more direct ways to help women and be able to communicate with them so that they can let me know what they're needing. And just, I feel like I have so much information now to share with folks after 30 years. So that's my next step is finding ways to get it all out there. So I'm happy to ask.
That's great, Daniella. Thank you. I mean, I want you to keep talking. I just wanted to say, I think, you know, when you're ready, what we can try to do a question and answer thing with people in the audience here. But yeah, that was what got me connected to Daniella. Was I found her book, Turning Off Breast Cancer, and I found it so interesting. And I've been implementing and working on all the different things that I read in her book. And, you know, it's definitely been helping me for sure, because, you know, from all the testing and all the work that I'm doing with my oncologist and my doctors, everything is looking really good. So I feel very happy about that. And okay, so I think we do. Yeah, so we do have a question.
Okay, so is it possible to turn me around so I can see who's asking questions, or do you just want to repeat them for me?
You can come on up. Yeah, okay.
There you go. I just wanted to add that I looked up the book, Turning on Breast Cancer. It's available in our libraries. It's been digital download.
Oh, thank you. Yes, when the book first came out, I made sure all the libraries had it, and most libraries have 2 copies because a lot of people use that book, and that's a great way to access it, even though it's out of print. So that's wonderful. Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, you're right here.
I was just wondering if you could share maybe a sneak peek into, before your book comes out, what are some of the top things you have about in our house?
Oh, in the home detox book?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, I love talking about that. You know, I've been working on that for the last 3 years, and it was very fun. One of the reasons it was fun, I like to paint in the evenings. I'm so heavily into doing research during the day. My brain just needs to kind of turn that off and do something else. And so I got to do a lot of paintings for the book, which was great fun. I thought you guys might like to know that, being an art show and all. But yeah, in the home detox book, oh gosh, I talk a lot about the concerns about memory foam, which is like in bath mats now and mattresses and all sorts of things. It off gases and releases formaldehyde and phthalates, and it's found to be one of the most toxic things in our homes. That and PFOAs, which is Teflon. So most people know about Teflon pans, that those are really dangerous. The PFOAs are cancer triggers, and specifically breast cancer triggers. But as I was researching the book, I learned so much myself about how the Teflon is used in all sorts of things in our house that you'd never think, like carpeting to keep it from staining. They put it on dental floss to make it slip through your teeth easier. It's in camping gear. But when I first started doing this research, I thought, oh no, it's everywhere. What are we going to do? But after 3 years of working my way through it, that's what the book is. It's all about how to find these things, get them out of your house, and whether you can just completely get rid of them, or whether it's something that you need to replace, and what are your options, and how to look for the right kind of labels that tell you that there's regulation and it is actually a clean, non-toxic product. So let's see, let me think of one more top one for you. There's the Teflon, the phthalates and plastics. Oh, and formaldehyde. So formaldehyde is another big one. It's off-gassed out of clothing now. In fact, I ordered some jeans from Anthropology, and they came with one of the warnings that said, you know, there may be cancer-causing compounds in here, and I could smell the formaldehyde. It just reminded me of going to cadaver lab in school, the formaldehyde smell. So anyway, there are easy ways to avoid these things, like buying organic clothes, buying like fabric that's hemp or linen or organic cotton, looking for labels, the GOTS labels. There's several fabric kinds of labels that tell you it's completely non-toxic. But I feel like after the 3-year work on this book, I did identify most of the toxins that are in the average home and how to remove them. And it's a room by room guide. And that's what I've set up for the online program too, is a room by room guide for breast toxins specifically. Okay. Yeah. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask if you're worried about something in your house. And also just know.
I'm worried about my bed.
Your bed? Oh, you have memory foam? Okay. I have a mattress coming this week. I had bought a mattress a few years back that I just love, and it's completely natural latex. It's from a rubber tree. They actually gather the rubber from the rubber tree, just like you get maple syrup out of the tree. It's like a sap. And it's completely natural. They bake it into like a mattress. And I just ordered a Savvy Rest mattress. There's several companies that make those. And the company, when I told them I talk about this in my book, they said, oh, we can offer a discount for your clients. So reach out to me if you want me to connect you with them and get a discount code or something. Okay.
Do you have anybody else that would like to?
When do you think the class will be out? Like this next week?
When I say that again, I couldn't quite hear. What will be out?
Class will be available like within the week?
Oh, the tech guys, we were working on the website this morning because it's in the new website, and they said a couple of weeks. So really soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I know Natalie's going to share my email and phone number. And people call me and reach out to me all the time just because I put that information in all of my books. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, please call me or email me. I'm always excited about questions. I'm always excited to connect people with the right products or help in any way I can.
Yeah. This is just so wonderful, Daniella, that you were coming here today to speak and share, and I'm just so grateful that you are doing this. So,
thank
really
you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we have. I know there are some more people in the audience. I don't know if anyone else wants to ask anything, but
well, they can reach out to me anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Come on. Yeah. Go stand right by me. And you can look that way. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, so question. So I was just looking through the book for the first time, and I noticed it's largely fruits. And I've been hearing a lot about cruciferous vegetables and all. Do you have? Is it in here? And I'm just not seeing it yet. Like vegetables kind of mixed with the fruits. And the reason I'm asking is because I have like slight concerns with blood sugar, and
Sure.
So I'm always trying to figure out like how to pair fruits with other things so that I'm not like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Brilliant. So increasing your mineral levels will actually help regulate your blood sugar. It helps it helps your insulin grab up the glucose molecules and drag them into the cells. So it helps regulate blood sugar. So the more you're eating more plant foods, fruits and vegetables, the better regulation you're going to have. But any of the recipes in the book, you can just add more greens to them. When I made my blueberry smoothie this morning, I added a lot of water to it because I was feeling a little dehydrated from my bike ride. And I just thought this will be an easy way to get that in this morning. But certainly you can do that, add more greens, which of course are lower in sugar. The reason there's so much fruit in there is because there's so many very specific nutrients that are in high levels in fruits. And so I was really trying to get those nutrients in, but that's a really important topic that you bring up. And just adding less of those fruits, so you're still getting some of those nutrients, and adding more greens is a great way to do that, lower the overall content of sugar in that smoothie.
Oh, Daniella, what kind of minerals would help with blood sugar?
Oh, very specifically, it's chromium. Okay, so chromium, zinc, and selenium. Chromium, zinc, and selenium.
How do you get chromium?
It's in nuts and seeds.
Okay, that's good.
But if you are having blood sugar issues, that's the number one thing I do with people who are on insulin, who are trying to get off of insulin. And I was focused on diabetes way back when I was working on the diabetes book, and I was able to help many people get off of insulin completely just by boosting their minerals so their body could use their insulin properly that they were making. So yeah, those 3 nutrients. You could just get a mineral supplement and take that till you're done with 1 bottle. Then you're probably not in a deficiency state anymore, and then just try to keep that level up with whole foods like nuts and seeds and legumes.
Great. Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Reaching out to anybody? Okay. All right. I think that's good. So Daniella, thank you so much again. I'm looking at the camera, which I can't totally see you, but you're to the side. But thank you so much for doing this for us.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. It was great to be here and talk with you guys today, and reach out anytime. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Ruined my day, but she was great.
Well,
I'm like, I got rid of everything, now I have to get rid of the best bed I never had.
oh,
Can I just put something organic on top of it?
I know. There was a lady. She was in the show. She's a survivor, and she had the big surgery and all that stuff. And she was trying to figure out triggers or toxins. And she said they had gotten one of those sleep number beds. And she said that every night she'd go to bed and she could just smell all the chemicals. And she said it bothered her, but she didn't really think a whole lot about it. And she thinks that might have been one of the triggers.